Yeah, and I want to see where you put the second row.
Oh, okay. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So who was that? Terry?
Yeah.
All right, Terry. It is a mannequin, so just remember that her head's not going to be the same as a regular head. But I mean, it's the same idea. Just remember what I said about like overlapping. But cool thing about Galinda's hair is that she actually has a lot of it. So it makes it really, really easy to put up more rows without actually it being visible. I don't know if you guys remember, like if you watched the video, I think she used a 2-finger rule to find where you're putting it. So if you, like how you know you're getting too close to the hairline, you use your 2 fingers. That does work, but sometimes you can get it just because they have more hair. And I mean, she has a lot of it. So, I mean, as long as you can put your finger or something shiny behind it and you can't see it, then that's a good way of telling like how far you can go up. That being said, this right here is her second row. And this down here is her first row. There we go. So for my first row, when I'm putting it in, and I mean, everyone is different. Everyone has a different shaped head. So, I mean, it can be done so many different ways. And that's like, I think the hard part when you're learning how to do hand tied, because like most things that we do, it all depends on the client's needs and what it is that we want to actually do. So if you have someone that's looking for length, what I did for her, because I wanted to just show off length here, is I had my starting point. And when I started installing, I went down to kind of create a U shape behind her head to try to produce as much length as possible. And then the second one was just to kind of fill in so it didn't look so like too little hair at the bottom. But here we go, hold on.
Is that about an inch in between the sections or less?
With her, the closest over here, like at the very top where they come close to, it's about 1.5 fingers. So a little under an inch, okay. Like 3/4 of an inch about. On some, like a regular head, I've done some where it was close, but you don't want to do it too close just because it kind of creates almost a bald spot in that area. And when the hair's down, like on top of it being kind of uncomfortable and too much hair being pulled in opposite directions, it doesn't have that natural, comfortable feeling. So you do want to have a little bit of hair in between them. That way, when it's time to like shampoo and time to wash, you can still put your fingers in there to gently wash in between. So you just at least 1 finger's width apart. That's normally like my rule of thumb. Again, everyone's a little bit different. That's just what I do. Here we go. So when you're pushing up, I find it super easy just to lift up all the extension hair. Let the regular stuff fall through, and you can easily see the bead down underneath. And all I do is just come in, open it up, but while holding on to the hair inside of the extension and keeping a nice little bit of tension in there. Once it's opened up, you just push it back up and squeeze it in. And I mean, it's easy peasy. Any other questions?
I think I'm the only one with any questions.
Terry, so, bring it on, Terry. Okay. I'm loving these Terry questions. Give me more.
Well, I have my lady Vivian here with where I was practicing my row again. Do you care to take a look at it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And here you have the beads.
Yeah. Does that look about right?
Do me one favor and just try to give me a better view of just one of the beads. I mean, judging from what I'm seeing, it looks about right. I'll show you here. Let me show you something. I'm so happy I did this. So this is another one where I feel like it can be done multiple different ways. I mean, the one I originally learned a while ago, I mean, it worked, but it was like, you couldn't push it up. But it was like, I call it the train track, and you basically make a train track of hair, which I've learned that's actually really good for when someone has like a bald spot, like alopecia in certain spots. You do a track around the bald spot and you sew it into the track of hair. But for us, having that ability to be able to push it back up, here. All right, let's see if I can get this in here a little better. All right, so mine are about the same as what you did. There's only one little difference, is that I'm taking, there we go, hold on. There we go. The sections that I'm taking, like when I'm pulling out those pieces, I just made them not thinner, but smaller. The only reason I do that is because depending with like certain, especially with this mannequin's hair, when I take two long pieces, it actually it sticks it out a little bit. So I took like half size sections of like where I put the, the bead in. I like cut that in half just because it helped to like lower down that bead so it didn't stick straight out. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with how you did yours. It just depends on like the client. Like if you do too long of a section, or depending on where you put it, like if you grab one of those long sections at the round of the head, you'll notice that it'll actually push up when you go to squeeze that extension in there or the bead in there. So just be cautious of that. Like when you're putting them in.
Okay, so your section isn't really thicker, but it's just a little bit closer together.
Yes. Well, here, look. You see how I mean, like they're a little smaller?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see that. Like I'm not grabbing a long width of hair to put inside of the bead. I basically
in the video,
just
it looked like they were bigger, but
yes,
in my brain, I felt like it should be smaller.
Yeah, and you are absolutely right. Like they're in the video, they are a lot bigger. Me personally, when I like to do it, I feel I get more of a natural look when I use smaller pieces. It takes a little bit more time, but I feel the end result looks a lot nicer.
Okay, if it's finer hair, is it still possible to take just take deeper sections at that point and still do them closer together, or?
Yes. Okay, so how I learned to do this was with people that had very, very fine, blonde, like almost translucent hair. I mean, you'd think it was impossible to do it, but the tips that I can give that would help a lot is main one, when you're doing the extensions, try not to do so much length work, if that makes any sense. A lot of times people with thin hair want to also have, you'll notice they also want longer hair. It's a little bit harder to do because what ends up happening with someone with thin hair is you're stressing out those hair follicles way too much. So the best that you can do is just do one weft and don't stack them. I don't know if you noticed in the video, she had like 200 wefts like put into this girl's hair, but she had super thick hair. I mean, she can go with whatever she wants. With someone with thinner hair, I'd always recommend to start to just do one weft. And then of course, if you need to overlap them, that's fine. It's not that big a deal. And maybe 2 rows on her, but 2 rows separated apart a little bit more. And that's how I would do it. But again, it really depends on the client. For example, like I had one client who had thin hair, but had, unfortunately, it was way too thin to be able to do these wefts, because even if you did just one little weft, you could still see it. So a client like that won't be, it won't work for her. You'll have to find something a little bit more for her. But yes, someone with thinner hair, it would absolutely can work. I have one client where, I had to talk her down because originally she wanted hair-like shares all the way down, but it unfortunately wouldn't work out. But we got her to like hair over here and it still looks natural. It still looks good. The one thing that I did do with her to help out is her main problem was she lacked hair on the sides. There wasn't anything. So what I ended up doing, and I mean, you can try it, especially on your client. Like if you know your client and they don't mind spending some time at the salon, I would recommend practicing doing your wefts. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you can. Okay, so what I do is instead of doing it straight, I'll do all of them going upwards. I don't know if you catch my drift. Like there's her head, and I'm gonna put it down so you can kind of see it. But what I'll end up doing is I'll go up a little bit higher, but try not to go like past like the crown of the head. But what that ends up doing, it helps to thicken up a little bit more in the front, especially if they're thinner in the front. Because once you lift it up, you're just getting more hair stacked down on top of each other. So there's different ways to kind of like, depending on what they need and what, you know, what their problem is, you can try to find a way around it.
Okay, so like how far apart did your little beads end up being? Like
my little beads?
Apart? Yeah, like a finger apart or?
Oh, from the front?
Yeah, how much space is in between them?
Oh, between the beads?
Yeah.
It depends. Where it starts to round, I'll give it a little bit more space. The spots that are a little bit flatter, I'll try to do them a little bit tighter. So I can't give you an exact measurement, like, oh, like it's this every single time. I base it on like, for example, like the sides of the head and the back of the head, I do those tighter. When we start going to the round parts, I do those a little bit more spaced apart.
Okay.